He who seeks only to be pleased will soon be owned by those who know how to please him. In this modern world, man no longer needs chains to be enslaved. He is conquered not by swords, but by screens, not by tyrants, but by temptations. Pleasure, once a luxury of kings, is now the opiate of the herd. It is cheap, immediate, and everywhere, offered not to elevate the soul, but to soften it. The strong used to resist indulgence to sharpen their edge. Today, men embrace it like a lover, blind to the dagger it hides. The most effective form of domination is not the one that announces itself with violence, but the one that seduces. In past ages, rulers used fear, hunger, and war to subdue the people. They ruled by terror, chained bodies, and spilled blood. But in this modern age, control has evolved. It no longer needs to be cruel. It only needs to be convenient. What could not be imposed by force is now accepted willingly, dressed in the costume of pleasure. The average man believes he is free because he can choose what to watch, what to eat, who to sleep with, and when. He does not see that these choices are illusions, designed, curated, and made easy precisely to rob him of the strength it takes to resist. The new master is not a tyrant on a throne. It is pleasure itself, administered in doses so frequent and so sweet that the subject never thinks to ask, "What is this costing me?" Comfort is the most persuasive form of control because it requires no chains. A man who is full, distracted, sexually satisfied, and constantly entertained will never rebel. He will never ask dangerous questions. He will never demand more from life because he has already traded away his hunger for the feeling of fullness. He is not ruled by another man. He is ruled by his own appetite, and that is far more effective. Pleasure numbs the mind. It smooths over the discomfort that gives birth to thought. When the body is satisfied, the will weakens. Pain sharpens the senses, but pleasure dulls them. In this dulled state, man becomes passive. He does not act, he waits. He does not strive, he accepts. He does not lead, he follows. The pursuit of ease becomes his religion, and anything that threatens that ease, discipline, confrontation, ambition, is cast out like a heresy. Those who rule understand this perfectly. They do not need to suppress dissent by brute force. They only need to supply enough distractions. The circus of pleasure does the work of 1,000 prisons. Give them a screen, a feed, a pill, a vice, and they will police themselves. They will abandon liberty, not because it is taken, but because it demands effort. There is a great lie whispered in this era that happiness is the highest aim, and that pleasure is its form. But happiness built on addiction is not strength. It is dependence, and dependence is the enemy of freedom. A man who cannot go a day without pleasure is a man who cannot go a day without permission. He is no threat to power, no challenge to authority. He is manageable. What makes this form of control so insidious is its invisibility. A man in chains knows he is not free, but a man whose chains are silk, whose prison is comfortable, will call himself liberated. He will defend his captor. He will mock those who warn him. He will celebrate his servitude as though it were victory. This is the genius of modern rule. It transforms obedience into desire. The rulers of today do not need to inspire fear. They only need to remove discomfort. And they do this not for your benefit, but for their control. The population must be calm, sedated, predictable. Revolution is born in discomfort. Philosophy, strength, ambition, all are born from some kind of lack. Erase that lack, and you erase the man. The wise do not consume pleasure like water. They sip it sparingly. They distrust anything that comes too easily. They understand that the more effortless something feels, the more likely it is designed to control. What is pleasurable is rarely powerful, unless you are the one administering it. Those who distribute pleasure en masse, be it through technology, vice, or ideology, are the true rulers. They decide how others feel when they feel it, and how long they remain distracted. That is the throne of the modern age. Pleasure is not freedom. It is the velvet rope that binds without resistance. It does not provoke revolt. It provokes sleep. The more pleasurable a society becomes, the more docile it is. It ceases to strive. It ceases to dream. It accepts survival in place of sovereignty. It chooses numbness over nobility. And once that choice is made enough times, it becomes the only thing the people know. They will die for pleasure, before they live for purpose. They will call their sedation peace. They will guard their distractions with devotion. They will kill the voice inside them that dares to say, "You were made for more." Desire is the oldest force in the human condition. It is the spark that drives ambition, lust, conquest, and creation. But in its raw form, desire is unpredictable. It births both heroes and tyrants, saints and monsters. It cannot be controlled. That is why the rulers of the modern age have done something unprecedented. They have transformed desire into a commodity. In previous eras, men pursued what they longed for, be it power, wealth, or meaning, through action, suffering, and sacrifice. The object of desire had to be earned. One had to contend with resistance. Desire forged strong wills because it demanded struggle. But now, desire no longer functions this way. It has been made into a product, prepackaged and sold to the masses in plastic, pixels, and propaganda. What once had to be chased is now delivered. What once required transformation now only requires a transaction. The world has found a way to profit from human longing, and the cost is far greater than money. It is sovereignty. The moment you allow your desires to be fulfilled by others, you give them the blueprint of your control. Desire has become predictable because it has been studied, measured, and manipulated. Corporations and institutions know more about what people want than people know about themselves. Through endless data, algorithms, and psychological engineering, they anticipate hunger before it surfaces. They do not wait for you to want. They create the want for you. You are not the originator of your longing. You are its consumer. Once your desires are mapped, you are no longer a free being. You are a profile, a target, a market. You believe you are making choices, but you are merely selecting from an invisible menu someone else has written for you. And this illusion of freedom is the most efficient leash ever invented. When a man believes he is choosing, he resists nothing. He walks willingly into servitude, because the chains are wrapped in pleasure and called liberty. To commodify desire is to standardize it. The uniqueness of the individual is erased and replaced with templates. What is beauty? It is what the screen tells you. What is success? It is what the influencers display. What is happiness? It is whatever is advertised during your weakest moment. Desire is no longer the flame that burns inside a man. It is the spark that others light in him to sell him the illusion of fulfillment. This is not accidental. This is ruled by seduction. In ancient times, the powerful ruled by commanding armies. Today, they rule by shaping appetites. They do not need to punish disobedience. They only need to ensure the people are fed desires that keep them busy and distracted. Feed them lust so they forget loyalty. Feed them vanity so they abandon virtue. Feed them envy so they remain forever in pursuit, but never in possession. This cycle is infinite, and those who run it are never seen. A society that commodifies desire creates citizens who no longer know what is real. They are led by impulse, not reflection. They consume symbols instead of substance. They do not love, they click. They do not aspire, they mimic. They do not think, they respond. Their desires are not their own, but the residue of a marketing strategy designed to make them compliant. True desire demands risk, discipline, and direction. But commodified desire is cheap, convenient, and corrosive. It produces men who are always hungry, but never satisfied. They devour without digestion. They take without growing. And in this endless consumption, their power fades. For what is a man who cannot create his own desire, or delay it, or deny it when needed? He is a shell, a marketable identity, replaceable, forgettable. The ones who profit from this system are not merely selling products. They are selling identities. To buy what they offer is not just to possess an object, but to accept a narrative. This is who you are. This is what you need. This is how you live. And once that script is internalized, there is no need for force. The subject will spend his life obeying the architecture of invisible desires written for him by hands he will never see. He will defend these desires because they feel good. He will never question them because they feel true. But the truth has nothing to do with what feels good. It is often ugly, painful, and silent. And that is why it is no longer welcome in the modern world. Truth does not sell, but pleasure does. And as long as desire remains a commodity, Truth will always be outbid. Discipline was once the dividing line between ruler and subject, master and servant, man and beast. It is not a virtue of saints, but a weapon of the strong. Without discipline, there is no power, only appetite. Without it, a man may be alive, but he is never sovereign. And yet in the modern world, discipline is not merely neglected. It is actively discouraged, even mocked. Its death has been slow, quiet, and strategic, replaced not with chaos, but with comfort. The modern world seduces men with ease. Everything is available, everything is accessible, and everything is designed to be consumed without effort. The ancient art of restraint is no longer taught, because those who know how to restrain themselves are dangerous. They cannot be manipulated by the promise of comfort or the threat of inconvenience. But the masses have been taught to avoid suffering, to fear discomfort, to seek the fastest, cheapest, and most pleasurable path. In doing so, they have surrendered the throne of their own mind. Discipline is painful. It is not natural. It must be trained, forged, and beaten into a man through repeated friction against his own desires. It is resistance, daily, deliberate resistance, to the animal within. A man without discipline is not free. He is chained to every impulse. He eats when he is not hungry, speaks when he has nothing to say, spends when he cannot afford, and retreats when he should advance. His mind does not command the body dictates the mind. Such a man may survive, but he will never rise. The rulers of today do not fear chaos, they fear order rooted in willpower. A disciplined mind is a mind that cannot be hijacked by propaganda, by indulgence, or by the synthetic rewards of the system. And so, modernity teaches the opposite. It glorifies instant gratification. It pathologized sacrifice. It encourages the celebration of vice under the mask of freedom. But freedom without self-mastery is merely license to self-destruct. The man who cannot command himself cannot command anything. A disciplined society is hard to rule. A distracted, addicted, impulsive population is easy to govern. If men are trained to indulge every urge, they become predictable. Their weaknesses can be marketed to. Their attention can be sold. Their votes can be bought. They require no chains, no prisons, no force. They will police themselves through shame and fear of judgment when they deviate from the herd. This is the genius of modern control. It makes self-destruction appear as self-expression. Discipline is not glamorous. It is not loud. It does not seek validation. It is the silent engine behind every powerful figure in history. The king must rise before the sun. The general must endure cold and hunger. The philosopher must sit in silence when others chase pleasure. Without this internal governance, all external power is temporary. The modern man wants influence without endurance, recognition without rigor, fulfillment without delay. He is a child in a grown body, with access to tools his ancestors had to earn with blood and hardship. The death of discipline creates a new species of man, one who believes that his feelings are sacred, his desires are rights, and his comfort is a moral good. He resents those who display control, because it reminds him of what he lacks. He calls their restraint arrogance, their ambition toxicity, their silence cruelty. In truth, he is merely witnessing a reflection of his own undisciplined nature, and it wounds him. Power flows to those who delay, not to those who indulge. In every field, war, politics, business, seduction, it is the disciplined who win. They do not act from impulse, but from strategy. They do not speak to be heard, but to influence. They do not eat what tastes good, but what makes them strong. Every act of discipline is an act of war against mediocrity, and the modern world is designed to ensure that this war is never even declared. Even education has been corrupted by this rot. Children are not taught patience or rigor. They are taught to feel safe, to be affirmed, to avoid failure. But discipline is born from failure, from correction, from doing what one does not want to do. To remove this is to raise a generation of men and women unfit for adversity. And a people unfit for adversity are easy to dominate. They will give up their freedom for protection, their power for pleasure, their dignity for dopamine. The decline of discipline is not an accident. It is a strategy. The more undisciplined the population, the less resistance power meets. The man who cannot say no to himself will never say no to authority. He will obey whatever offers him relief, and he will call that obedience, choice. The modern man speaks often of freedom. It is his highest ideal, his proudest possession, and his most frequent justification. He wears it like armor, invoking it to defend every decision, every habit, every indulgence. But examine closely, and you will find that what he calls freedom is not freedom at all. It is addiction. A man is not free because he can do whatever he wants. He is free only when he can refuse what he wants. And this ability, this rare, essential mastery, has all but vanished. The marketplace has learned to dress chains in the language of choice. What once came with a whip now arrives in a sleek device. What once enslaved men through force now enslaves them through appetite. The addict does not see himself as a slave. He sees himself as someone who simply enjoys what he likes. He insists he is choosing, but this choice is automatic, compulsive, uncontested. He returns to the same substances, the same distractions, the same comforts, not because they serve him, but because he cannot live without them. This is not liberty. It is a dependency with a flattering mask. Modern addictions are not limited to the bottle or the needle. They are far more insidious. They hide in the glow of the screen, the endless scroll of content, the sugar disguised as food, the approval disguised as connection. They are engineered for permanence, designed by minds that understand human psychology better than any general understands war. They do not aim to give satisfaction, but to prevent it. For as long as the man is never satisfied, he continues to consume. And as long as he consumes, he remains obedient. The addict cannot say no, and a man who cannot say no is incapable of resistance. He is pliable. He is convenient. He may shout about rights and individuality, but every one of his actions is dictated by impulse. He is led not by reason or conviction, but by cravings, chemical, emotional, social. These cravings become the real rulers of his life. And those who control the supply of these cravings become the architects of his reality. The illusion deepens because addiction has become social. It is not hidden in shame. It is celebrated as a lifestyle. The man who cannot go a moment without stimulation is called modern, informed, connected. The woman who is addicted to the gaze of others is called empowered. The child who cannot think without entertainment is labeled creative. The language of virtue has been hijacked to hide the machinery of enslavement. And no one questions it, because everyone is participating in it. What makes this addiction worse than the chains of past ages is that it is voluntary. The slave of the past knew he was chained. He knew who his master was. He dreamt of escape. But the modern addict believes he is free. He defends the very system that depletes him. He cannot imagine life without it. If you take it from him, he suffers withdrawal, not just physically, but existentially. His identity has fused with his addiction. He has no self outside of it. The merchants of this system are not fools. They understand that to truly dominate a man, you must never make him feel dominated. He must feel empowered. So he is flooded with choices. What to watch, what to buy, what to say, who to follow. But all these choices occur within the same narrow corridor, designed to keep him docile. He is not choosing anything of consequence. He is choosing which flavor of dependence to consume. And he is proud of this. A truly free man is rare because he is inconvenient. He cannot be bought, distracted, or coerced. He can endure silence, hunger, rejection, and solitude. He does not chase the next hit of pleasure, because he understands that every hit comes with a hook. He has learned to say no, not once, but repeatedly, especially when no one is watching. This kind of man terrifies the system, because he cannot be controlled through the usual levers. He is immune to comfort, indifferent to popularity, and capable of standing alone. In a society where addiction is normalized, the sober man becomes an outcast. He is mocked as rigid, jawless, arrogant. But in truth, he is the only one capable of real joy, real choice, real life. For only he has access to a self that is not mediated through consumption. He has reclaimed what others have traded away, the authority over their own mind. The masses will continue to scream that they are free, even as they tremble when their devices are taken, panic when their habits are challenged, and break down when their distractions are removed. This is not freedom. This is dependency institutionalized. addiction mass-produced, slavery made fashionable. And yet it persists, not because it is forced, but because it is pleasurable. The most effective tyrant does not rule by terror, but by indulgence. Fear creates rebellion. Pain invites resistance. But pleasure disarms. It is soothing. It seduces the will and dulls the intellect. A man who is satiated does not ask questions. He does not conspire, nor does he dream of revolt. He simply consumes. And in this state of consumption, he becomes harmless. That is the genius of modern power. It no longer demands obedience. It purchases it through gratification. Pleasure has become the most refined instrument of mass control. It no longer serves as a reward for discipline or success. It is distributed freely, recklessly, like a drug. It is not earned, but injected into the bloodstream of civilization until the people become addicted to the very system that robs them of strength. They no longer fight for freedom because they do not feel oppressed. Their cages are lined with silk. Their shackles are invisible. They are entertained, fed, and stimulated at all hours. And so they believe they are free. The rulers of this age do not wield swords. They manufacture appetites. They control the masses not by force, but by excess. They flood the world with distractions, pleasures of the flesh, the eye, the ego. Every craving is met with a product. Every impulse is rewarded, but this pleasure comes at a cost. It slowly erodes the will. It neutralizes ambition. It makes men passive, reactive, unable to endure hardship or delay gratification. They are not governed through law or tradition. They are governed through their own weakness. This is not a new principle. Even in ancient empires, bread and circuses were used to quiet the mob. But what distinguishes the modern world is its precision. Pleasure is now scientifically engineered. The architects of desire know how to keep the dopamine flowing, how to design stimuli that capture attention and override judgment. Every color, every sound, every algorithm is calculated. They do not simply offer pleasure, they weaponize it. The most potent pleasure is not what satisfies, but what teases, what keeps the subject wanting more, always just out of reach. This is why the modern man is always scrolling, always watching, always consuming, but never full. His appetite is bottomless because it has been designed to be. He does not command his urges, they command him. And in this reversal of hierarchy, he becomes governable. Not because he is weak, but because his strength is never cultivated. A people lulled by pleasure become incapable of sacrifice. They no longer serve anything higher than themselves. They recoil from pain, discomfort, effort. They begin to measure life not by meaning, but by sensation. Their leaders understand this well. Give them comfort, and they will forgive corruption. Give them entertainment, and they will ignore degradation. As long as their pleasures are uninterrupted, they will tolerate anything, from surveillance to censorship, from moral decay to national decline. Even rebellion itself is absorbed by pleasure. Outrage becomes theater. Dissent becomes brand identity. The revolutionary becomes an influencer. The system does not crush rebellion. It commercializes it, sells it back to the people in digestible form. Thus, even protest becomes a kind of entertainment, incapable of real transformation. The state remains untouched because it knows that no pleasure-starved population has the strength to truly upend power. Pleasure has also replaced virtue. What was once considered noble, restraint, patience, duty, is now considered oppressive. To deny oneself is seen as archaic. To discipline the body or mind is seen as self-harm. The new morality is simply do what feels good. But feelings are temporary. They are easily manipulated, and when a man bases his life on what feels good, he is no longer a citizen. He is a customer, easy to please and easy to forget. This is why power now seeks not to dominate, but to entertain. The politician becomes a performer. The teacher becomes an entertainer. The priest becomes a therapist. Substance is sacrificed for spectacle. Truth is sacrificed for comfort. The masses are kept in a trance not through violence, but through pleasure carefully measured and endlessly supplied. Their emotions are harvested, their attention monetized, their time dissolved into distractions that promise meaning, but deliver emptiness. In this world, silence is revolutionary. Stillness is resistance. Abstinence is subversion. To deny pleasure, even briefly, is to awaken from the spell. The system relies on noise, stimulation, and craving to keep itself alive. If enough people were to withdraw from its seductions, even for a moment, they would begin to see the architecture of their own enslavement. But this awakening is rare, because it demands pain, clarity, and the severing of attachments. And most prefer the comfort of their chains. Pleasure has become the currency of obedience in an age where control no longer requires chains. The modern man, intoxicated by comfort, celebrates his slavery as freedom and his passivity as peace. He has been taught to seek ease over mastery, indulgence over restraint, and gratification over growth. In doing so, he has exchanged the discipline of kings for the appetites of animals. He is no longer ruled by strength, nor by fear, but by a constant craving for more validation, more distraction, more sensation. And in this hunger, he loses the one thing power fears most: sovereignty of the self. The death of discipline, the rise of engineered addiction, the weaponization of pleasure, these are not accidents. They are the quiet tools of a system that has learned it can enslave without violence and dominate without resistance. To reclaim one's power in such a world is to become an outlier. It is to walk away from the banquet table and embrace hunger. It is to master one's desires, rather than be mastered by them. But few will choose this path, for it is far easier to stay entertained than to awaken. Far easier to feel good than to become strong, and so the rulers smile, not because they are loved, but because they are never challenged. The people are too busy consuming the very pleasures that keep them powerless.